My name is Amina, born in a small village called Ogwashi in Delta State, Nigeria. I grew up in a poor family, the first of 6 children. Life was tough, but we survived. My parents were farmers, and we worked hard on a small piece of land to provide for ourselves. Even though we didn't have much, we had each other, and that was enough. From a young age, I was different. My mother used to tell me stories about how, when I was born, the midwife looked into my eyes and shivered. She said that my eyes were too sharp, too cold for a newborn. I didn't cry like other babies. Instead, I just stared at her with a strange calmness. They named me Amina because it means trustworthy in Hausa, hoping I would live up to the name. As I grew older, I noticed that people treated me differently. I didn't have many friends because children my age were scared of me. They said I was too quiet, too intense. I didn't understand why until I turned 12. It was then that I had my first experience with the snake spirit. I was fetching water from the stream when I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my chest. I dropped my bucket and fell to the ground, writhing in agony. It felt like something was moving inside me, coiling and uncoiling, making its way through my vein. I was terrified. When the pain finally subsided, I realized that something had changed within me. I felt powerful, more aware of my surroundings. I could sense the presence of snakes nearby. That night, I had a dream. A giant serpent appeared to me, its eyes glowing in the darkness. It spoke to me, telling me that I was its chosen one, destined to carry its spirit. It said that I had been marked from birth, that I was special. I woke up in a cold sweat, trembling with fear. I tried to dismiss the dream as a nightmare, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. The next morning, I found a small silver snake coiled at the foot of my bed. It looked up at me with those same glowing eyes from my dream. I screamed and ran out of the room, but when I returned with my mother, the snake was gone. She told me it was just my imagination, but I knew better. From that day on, the snake spirit became part of me. I could feel it in my blood, in my bones. It was like a second skin, always there, always watching. I tried to ignore it, to live a normal life, but it was impossible. The spirit was too strong, too demanding. It wanted control, and slowly it began to take over. As the year passed, I learned to live with the snake spirit. It wasn't easy, but I had no choice. I could no longer pretend to be like everyone else. I was different, and I had to accept that. The spirit gave me powers, abilities that others could only dream of. I could sense danger before it happened. I could control snakes with a mere thought, and I had an unnatural charm that drew people to me. But these powers came at a price. The snake spirit was hungry, and it needed to be fed. It thrived on negativity, on pain and suffering. It whispered to me in the dead of the night, urging me to do things, terrible things. At first, I resisted, but the more I resisted, the stronger the spirit became. It was like fighting a losing battle, and eventually I gave in. I became cold, calculating, and manipulative. I used my power to get what I wanted. I didn't care who I hurt in the process. I seduced men, played with their emotions, and discarded them like toys when I was done. I lied, cheated, and stole without remorse. The snake spirit reveled in my darkness, feeding off my sins. It made me feel powerful, invincible, like I was untouchable. But deep down, I knew that what I was doing was wrong. I could feel the weight of my action pressing down on me, suffocating me. The spirit had taken over. I was no longer in control. I was a prisoner in my own body, a puppet to the snake's will. And yet, I couldn't stop. The power was so addictive, the thrill so exciting. I was spiraling down a dark path, and I didn't know how to turn back. I was lost, and I feared that there was no redemption for someone like me. Everything changed the day I met Pastor Chidi. It was a Sunday morning, and I had reluctantly agreed to attend church with my family. I hadn't been to church in years, and the thought of being in a holy place made the snake spirit restless. It hissed and squirmed inside me, urging me to leave, but something made me stay. Pastor Chidi was a tall, imposing man with a deep, commanding voice. He spoke with such passion and conviction that it was impossible not to be drawn in. As he preached, I could feel the spirit inside me recoiling, shrinking away from the power of his words. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope, a tiny spark of light in the darkness that had consumed me. After the service, Pastor Chidi approached me. He looked into my eyes, and it was as if he could see right through me, past the smoke screen I had carefully constructed. He smiled and introduced himself, and before I knew it, we were deep in conversation. There was something about him, something that made me feel safe, something that made me want to be a better person. We started seeing each other regularly. At first, it was just casual meeting after church, but soon it became more than that. Pastor Chidi was kind, patient and understanding. He listened to me, really listened, and for the first time in my life, I felt like someone cared about me, not because of what I could do for them, but because of who I was. The snake spirit didn't like this. It grew agitated, lashing out at me, trying to drive me away from Pastor Chidi. It whispers lies in my ears, telling me that he was just using me, that he would leave me as soon as he's got what he wanted. I didn't listen. For once, I wanted to be free, free from the darkness, free from the spirit that had controlled me for so long. Falling in love with Pastor Chidi was the most unexpected thing that had ever happened to me. He was everything I wasn't, pure, righteous, and full of light. Being with him made me want to change, to be worthy of his love. But it wasn't that easy. The snake spirit wasn't ready to let go of me, and I wasn't strong enough to fight it on my own. Every time I was with Pastor Chidi, the spirit would torment me, filling my mind with doubt and fear. It would remind me of all the terrible things I had done, all the lives I had ruined. It would tell me that I was beyond redemption, that I didn't deserve someone like him. The guilt and shame were overwhelming. And there were times when I thought about leaving him, just to protect him from the darkness that surrounded me. But Pastor Chidi wouldn't let me go. He saw the struggle within me, and he was determined to help me. He would pray for me, laying his hands on my head, asking God to deliver me from the spirit that plagued me. I could feel the spirit written inside me, resisting the prayers. But there was also a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in years. One night, after a particular intense prayer session, I broke down in tears. I confessed everything to Pastor Chidi, the snake spirits, the powers, the things I had done. I expected him to be horrified, to turn his back on me, but instead he held me close and told me that he loved me, that he would stand by me no matter what. That was the moment I knew I couldn't lose him. I was willing to do whatever it took to rid myself of the snake spirit, to be free, but I also knew that it wouldn't be easy. The spirit was a part of me, and letting it go would mean letting go of everything I had known for most of my life. The battle for my soul was intense and exhausting. Pastor Chidi enlisted the help of other pastors and prayer warriors, and together they embarked on a series of deliverance sessions. These sessions were terrifying. The snake spirit fought back with all its might, refusing to let go of me. It would twist my body in unnatural ways, make me speak in strange tongues, and cause me to lash out at those who were trying to help me. But despite the spirit's resistance, the prayers continued. Pastor Chidi was relentless. He fasted, prayed, and called upon the power of God to break the hold the spirit had on me. There were times when I wanted to give up, to let the spirit win. But Pastor Chidi's unwavering faith gave me strength. During one particularly grueling session, the spirit manifested fully. I could feel it rising within me, taking control of my body. My eyes turned cold, my voice changed, and I hissed at those around me, spitting venomous words. But Pastor Chidi didn't back down. He continued to pray, louder and more fervently, calling upon the power of God to break the spirit hold over me. The struggle was intense. I could feel the spirit thrashing inside me, trying to stay in control. My body convulsed, and a chilling coldness spread through my veins. But as the prayer continued, something incredible happened. The spirit began to weaken. I could feel its grip loosening, its power waning. It was as if a light was piercing through the darkness, burning away the evil that had taken root in me. And then, with one final desperate scream, the spirit left me. I collapsed on the floor, exhausted and trembling. But for the first time in years, I felt a profound sense of peace. The weight that had been pressing down on me was gone, and I knew deep down that the spirit was gone for good. Tears streamed down my face as I realized what had just happened. I was free. After years of being a prisoner in my own body, I was finally free. Pastor Chidi knelt beside me, his eyes filled with tears of relief and joy. He took my hand and whispered, "Thank God, you are free, Amina, you are free." The days that followed my deliverance were a time of healing and renewal. I felt like a new person, as if a heavy burden has been lifted off my shoulder. I could finally breathe, live and love without the shadow of the snake spirit hanging over me. It was a strange feeling to be in control of my own life again, but it was also exhilarating. Pastor Chidi and I grew even closer during this time. He supported me every step of the way, helping me rebuild my life and my faith. I started attending church regularly, and I immersed myself in the Word of God. I wanted to understand the grace that had saved me, the love that had set me free. It wasn't easy, but with Pastor Chidi by my side, I knew I could face whatever challenge lays ahead. We eventually got married in a small, beautiful ceremony, surrounded by friends and family. It was a day of joy and celebration, a day that marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. As I stood at the altar, holding Pastor Chidi's hand, I knew that I had been given a second chance, a chance to live a life of purpose and righteousness. Married life was everything I had dreamed of and more. Pastor Chidi and I shared a deep bond, one that had been forged in the fires of struggle and deliverance. We were partners in every sense of the word, supporting each other in our journey of faith and service to God. Together we built a life centered on love, trust, and mutual respect. I also found my own calling in the church. I started working with young women who were struggling with their own battles, helping them to find their way out of darkness and into the light. I shared my story with them, not as a warning, but as a testament to the power of God's grace and redemption. It was a humbling experience to see how my journey could inspire others to seek freedom and healing. But even as I embraced this new life, I knew that the past could not be erased. The things I had done, the people I had hurt, they were still a part of my story. I had to live with the consequences of my actions, and that was a burden I would carry for the rest of my life. But I also knew that I had been forgiven, that I had been given a new chance to make things right. As I reflect on my journey, I realize that my story is one of redemption and the transformative power of love and faith. I was once lost in darkness, controlled by a spirit that sought to destroy me. I did terrible things, hurt people I care about, and live a life that was far from what I knew was right. But even in the depths of my despair, God's love found me. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but through the prayers, faith, and love of those around me, I was able to break free from the chains that bound me. As I continue to walk this path, I do so with the knowledge that I am not alone, that I have my faith, my husband, and the love of those around me. And most importantly, I have a renewed sense of purpose, a desire to live a life that honors the grace that saved me. My name is Amina, and this is my story. A story of darkness, of struggle, but ultimately of redemption. And if my story can help even one person find their way out of the darkness, then it was all worth it. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and press the notification bell for more interesting and captivating creepy story. See you in the next story. Bye for now.